Hello dear students, this is our last part of the nationalist movement. In the previous video we had learnt about the French Revolution, that on the 14th of July in 1789 that the people of France came together and broke open the state prison at Bastille, and that Bastille was the symbol of monarchy that was overthrown. And the fall of Bastille was a victory for the French people who had risen against the old order. The King Louis XVI and his wife Queen Antoinette were both executed in the public, and French monarchy was abolished and France became a republic with liberty, equality and fraternity. Now we will see after the revolt. It was the period when there were many leaders coming up. One among them is Napoleon Bonaparte. Just after the execution of the king and the queen, for a period of 3-4 years, it was total unrest in France. In 1789 it had happened so that the king and his wife were punished, and in the 3-4 years it was called the period of terror, the reign of terror, because the period started from 1793 and for a year till 1794 it was a period of terror in France. One of those leaders who were creating terror was Robespierre. His full name was Maximilien Robespierre. He is also known as the architect of French Revolution. He started the reign of terror in France. It was a period of fear and violence. There were many people who were killed openly. During this period, many new leaders in France had begun to use fear and violence. One of them is Maximilien Robespierre. And they had executed hundreds of people, thousands of people in the open. This came to an end between 1793 to 1794 when about 5 lakh people were arrested and 1700 of them were put to death by public execution on the guillotine. This guillotine we say, but the L is actually silent here, guillotine. So in the guillotine they were executed in the open. How the death sentence is given with a machine, that's what the meaning of this word is, guillotine. During this period, there was a scientist in France known as Antoine Lavoisier, a French scientist who was known as father of modern chemistry, was also killed. We talked about so many people were arrested and 1700 of them were put to death. One of the scientists was also put to death. It was Napoleon Bonaparte who rose during this period, rose to be a dictator and crowned himself as emperor. He was one of the soldiers in the army, rose up as the consul, that is the highest official in the country, and owned the position and took the power of the governance. He became an emperor in the year 1804. He rose in the ranks of army to the position of first consul, the highest official in the country. And France became a powerful nation because he was a military genius and he conquered many neighboring countries. It was more of a constitutional monarchy than an autocracy. Dictatorship or autocracy both are same. But during his reign, he also provided some rules according to the constitution. So it is known as constitutional monarchy. Napoleon restored order in France. He instituted Napoleonic Code, that is a set of new rules for the government. Napoleonic Code that put an end to the privileges of the nobles. The nobles and the clergymen who availed facility of not paying the taxes and other privileges, they were put to an end by Napoleon. Napoleon was a great warrior and conquered lands of Italy, Spain and Germany. During Napoleon's reign or rule, the ideas of liberty, equality spread all over Europe. People were rising against any autocratic system that opposed liberty or liberalism and equality. Some countries, being inspired by the idea of nationalism, rose against him because he was an autocratic ruler and was conquering the neighboring kingdoms. He was sent to exile for a year, but he returned the next year in 1815. For a period of 100 years, he was allowed to be in France after exile for a period of 100 days. In 1815, he was defeated at the famous Battle of Waterloo by the Duke of Wellington of England, and after a defeat, he was again sent to exile. The occupied territories that he won over in different parts of the world, the occupied territories were redistributed, and the French Revolution, with the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity, spread all over Europe. England and France were the first independent nation states or independent nations of the period. The year 1848 is known as the year of revolution because over 50 countries became independent during the period. 50 countries in Europe and Latin America were affected, beginning with the revolutionary way because of France. Italy and Germany succeeded in establishing their nations in 1871. Thus, these revolutions brought many changes across the world and they set democratic government. Thus, peace was restored in different parts of the countries. That is all we had to learn about the parts of Napoleon Bonaparte, and the exercise part of it is there. We have the questions and their answers. Question number 1, the answer is the European thinkers like Voltaire inspired the American to fight for liberty. Question 1 was, how did the European thinkers influence the settlers in America? Then the next one, describe the Boston Tea Party incident. One night, the American settlers disguised as Red Indians and threw crates of tea into the sea as a symbol of defiance against the Tea Act. That was at Boston Harbor. Third question, what were the causes of the American Revolution? What was its impact? Causes were England imposed heavy taxes on American settlers and England refused to respect the rights of the Americans. These are the two causes, and impact is that the colonial British rule ended in America. 4. Who is the father of the Declaration of Independence? Thomas Jefferson. And what does it state? He was the founding father of USA who wrote the Declaration of Independence. 5. Why was the American Civil War fought? What were its effects? So the American Civil War was fought because in southern states of America they practiced slavery and wanted to remain separated from the Union, while the Northern Americans wanted to abolish slavery and remain united. And slavery was abolished at the end. The two parts of America got reunited after the revolt. Then the fall of Bastille was a victory for the French people. Substantiate the statement. The fall of Bastille was a victory for the French people because people rose up against the inequality and exploitation and executed the king and the queen to make France a republic. 7. When and why did the French Revolution break out? Break out means begin. The French Revolution broke out in 1789 because there was inequality in French society. People had no political rights, and the workers and peasants were the worst sufferers as a result of high taxes. How did the French Revolution lead to the growth of new ideas in Europe? The French Revolution spread the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity and generated the spirit of nationalism to many other countries. Next is 9. How was the French Revolution inspirational to the world? Because of the growth of new ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity, the people got encouraged or couraged, and then they showed courage shown by the people was encouragement for many others, that they rose against the absolute monarchy, and in many countries in the world started opposing and the colonial rule, and they demanded their liberty and freedom. Question number 10. What is the basic similarity and difference between the American and French Revolution? Similarity is given later and difference. The American War of Independence gave the idea of democracy, while the French gave the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity. Similarity is that both American and French Revolution were against their own governments, the British rule and or the monarchy in France. That's all for this lesson. We'll learn formally again in the online classes. Till then, keep learning. Bye-bye.